All right, good evening. We'll call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Atascadero City Council. Roll call was already taken at 5 o'clock before we entered into closed session. So I will begin by asking the city attorney to report out on our closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 3 items. Two of them were conference with real property negotiators under Government Code Section 54956.8. The 2 properties in question were 6105 Olmeda Avenue, assessor parcel number 029091001, the state of California property. The agency negotiator, James R. Lewis, this negotiating party was the state of California, and under negotiations were the purchase price in terms of payment. There was no reportable action on that matter. The second item was real property located on Capistrano Avenue, assessor parcel number 029105014. Again, the agency negotiator was James Lewis, city manager, and negotiating party was Sean Knopf. Under negotiation were the purchase price in terms of payment. There was no reportable action. Final matter was a conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subdivision D4, initiation of litigation in one potential case. There was no reportable action.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Peak. All right, thank you. With that, we will proceed to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial by the staff and will be acted upon by a single action of the city council unless otherwise requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. I will first ask if there is any member of the council wishing to pull an item or to ask any questions. Okay, seeing none, we will see if there is any public comment on items on the consent calendar. That is to say, items D1 through D4. Seeing no one approach, we'll return the item to council for a motion.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Dares. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Peak?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dares?
Yes.
Mayor Bourbeau?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we will proceed to updates from the city manager, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I do have several. So something some families or many families may be thrilled about in our community is we have a new restaurant coming to town that was a top request of our high schoolers, believe it or not, a couple years ago. We can announce that Chick-fil-A will be locating at the northeast corner of 101 and San Ramon. And this was a restaurant of young people as part of our general plan exercise. Really, we're hoping to get a chicken restaurant in town, and they are quite popular and are a good financial generator for the community. So we'll be working through the development process with Chick-fil-A, but wanted to share that with the community. It's was widely rumored, but now we can confirm that that application is in, and it will be a great contributor to our community. We have some celebrations at the zoo that we had. We have a couple, there's a nice picture of many of you and community leaders. We celebrated an upgrade to our zoo freezers and a refrigerator that will help store food. And this was for our animal residents. And we had a lot of support here. I want to thank the Friends of the Zoo, really had great fundraising and teamwork, along with Loomis Tank Centers for providing the specialized freezer units. PG&E also supported the project, and a big thank you to Idler's Home for generously donating an extra freezer to support our annual ice cream Zoofari during the transition. So just continuing to make upgrades to the zoo as part of our accreditation, and we thank everyone for their time. But there was a lot of community spirit that came together to make that a reality. So that's a great improvement. We hosted a next slide, a bridal expo. So this is 2 of our amazing staff members, Patty and Ashley, and you can see Terry there as well. Really proud of them for featuring the pavilion at the Bridal Expo. We haven't been at this for a very long time. And so the Community Services and Promotions Department's really working to start sharing our great facilities and start renting them out as much as we can. We had over 16 interested brides want to take a tour of the pavilion and the gazebo. So that's terrific. So good work to them. And that is the Bridal Expo. The A-Town Skate Park, take a look at this. Wow. So you can see where we were. A year ago, we were looking at some different projects, and the council directed us to freshen up the park and the pavement in the back. So that has all been done. That is gray and orange and gray, I should say, and really great improvements to the area, and we'll reconfigure the back area and have a ribbon cutting in the future. But just wanted to show you that in the community. The council's doing a great job investing in your facilities and the young people of our community. So I wanted to show you that. Speaking of young people in our community, really pleased that Troop 51, so this is the Atascadero's Boy Scout troop. They have been, or Scouting America, as it's now referred to, has been in our community for decades, I think 80 years now. They have a commitment of planting 10,000 daffodil bulbs throughout the community, and they were selling them as fundraisers. And last weekend, they planted over 1,000 along the entrance frontage to Lake Park. So really neat work from the Scouts. I wanted to show you that. They have 9,000 more to go. They've been working with us on locations in the community that are wooded. So when the daffodils are expired, they're okay to stay there, but really neat. So I wanted to thank Troop 51 for serving the community, and they'll continue to beautify our city. Next, we have the annual Fall Festival. It's starting to look like that outside right now. This is a great full-scale carnival, concerts, rides, games, admissions free for the booths and the entertainment. There is a fee for the rides, but that's great. The rain is, who knows? Hopefully it rains from midnight to 5 a.m. We'll see. But it is rain or shine this event. So please do come when the drops have stopped. And that is Fall Fest, this starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's our 5th annual Fall Festival, and we're looking forward to having it. The hours, by the way, are 4 to 10 on Friday, 12 to 10 on Saturday. You can see in 12 to 10 on Sunday. Atascadero Day at Cal Poly. Oh, a different slide here. We have, this is Colony Days Parade. So also Saturday, rain or shine, really hoping it's shine. We'll be at 10 a.m. This is our parade. We'll have a good bit of participation from our schools this year. I've confirmed some of that. So really, really neat. And we're trying to kick off Fall Fest Saturday with the Colony Days Parade, and looking forward to that. So 10 a.m. Downtown along El Camino and the mall, and going over the bridge. So really neat. So come downtown and see the Colony Days Parade. Butterfly Drive is the theme, I guess, to celebrate our new Butterfly Grove now coming, since you voted on that this month. So please do come out to Colony Days. The council will be riding in the community's antique fire engine. Okay, Cal Poly is what I think I have next. Yes, so this is our 3rd annual Atascadero Day at Cal Poly football. This is really cool. This is November 22nd, so this is next Saturday from 2 to 5. If you register on that QR code or go to Cal Poly football, you can get in for free if you're an Atascadero resident on Atascadero Day. So pretty neat for Cal Poly fans, and let's celebrate and cheer on Cal Poly as we celebrate Atascadero Day. So that's on November 22nd. I can share, I believe, can I share our honoree? They have selected Fire Chief Bryson to be our honored person for his years of service to the fire department. Well deserved, sir. And he will be honored at the game for serving so well as our fire chief and being on our fire department for nearly 3 decades. So pretty neat. And we look forward to honoring Chief Bryson. And tickets are available. So there you go. You can also go to visit Atascadero.com to get those tickets. Best of the Central Coast is out right now, and we would like you to vote for Central Coast Zoo, Atascadero, to be the best family attraction. So voting is open. You can vote every day. Just wanted to do an advertisement to vote for the zoo, Best of the Central Coast. And that's what I have. So if you have other questions, I'm happy to answer them. And you can always go to visit Atascadero.com or Atascadero.org for more information. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Does any member of the council have any questions for the city manager? Nope. Okay, with that, we will proceed to our next item on the agenda, which is Community Forum. Community Forum is reserved for persons wanting to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda, but over which the council has jurisdiction. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing matters not on the agenda, so we will not enter into any conversation about anything raised, but we may at our discretion ask staff to contact a speaker or answer a quick question. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you state your name for the record. And if you'd like to speak, please go ahead and line up. First speaker, please.
I don't know. There we go. Good evening, Council and Mayor Bobo. This is Wendy Lewis with El Camino Homeless Organization. There is an item on the agenda. I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking on several other things that I wanted to bring to your attention and the community. One, ECHO this year put in for some funding for a warming center that will be held at our Paso Robles facility. It's 10 beds and is open to anybody who needs it on inclement weather nights like we're facing in the next few days. It's weather-based, so it's 38 degrees or lower or 50% chance of rain. We will open that and activate it. It is only 10 beds, which is what we have space for. And it is on a, everybody signs up. And then if we exceed 10 people coming for that service, we will then have a random drawing, but it's a vital service we're bringing online this year. Another thing is that we have a very active schedule coming up, and I wanted to share with the community that on Thanksgiving Day is our 7th annual turkey trot, and it takes place at the Atascadero Lake, beautiful setting here in the community. Funds raised support our overall operations throughout the county. We again this year have an incredible foundation. The Beloved Foundation is matching dollar for dollar any funds raised by the community, and so we're encouraging people to come out. It grows and grows each year. Last year we had about 1,200 people, and we're expecting even more. Dress up in your favorite turkey costume. There's prizes, awards. Registration is at 8:30. The trot happens at 9, and it is just a suggested donation of $20. Another update I'd like to share is we are definitely under construction for our new family wing in Atascadero. If you've driven by the shelter lately, you'll see it in active construction. One exciting thing is that myself and our Chief Operations Officer actually visited the buildings in Santa Paula yesterday. So it was very surreal to walk through beautiful rooms that our families will be in, see it kind of coming together, which means it's on track for opening in September of 2026. So we're super excited, on schedule, on budget, which is kind of unheard of in construction. But again, we got to walk through the places that will house the families with children and just provide the services in an enhanced way that we currently do. And so super excited for that. Last update is actually as of today, I am super excited to share with the community that we have exceeded the number of people we helped into stable housing last year, which was 353. As of today, we've helped 355 individuals and children either get back into permanent housing or keep them in housing in our homeless prevention fund. So only possible with the support from the council and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those updates. Next speaker, please.
Tough to follow, but good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, and all others in attendance. My name is John Roner, and I wanted to introduce myself as the new Public Affairs Manager for SoCal Gas. I cover San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County. I like to say my coverage territory is Hearst Castle to Carpinteria. I recently took on the role after Tim Mahoney retired this year. I don't know if anyone worked with Tim Mahoney. He was the public affairs manager for like 27 years. So very big shoes to fill. Just wanted to state that SoCal Gas remains committed to supporting local governments and ensuring safe, reliable, and affordable energy for our customers. And also, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments and for introducing yourself. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Campion. I've been working with city staff and council for just under 20 years, managing our facility that you just showed pictures of, A-Town Park, George C. Beatty Skate Park. We keep the skate out of it and just call it a park because we want it to be as inclusive as possible. That's just a little FYI. I'd like to introduce Dalton Rohrbaugh. Dalton, when I stepped in about almost 20 years ago and the park was needing some restoration and just cleanup and repair, Dalton was about 16, 17 years old on a BMX bike, and I decided to offer him a part-time internship position in order to keep him out of trouble, which he flourished at. Dalton is about 12 years servicing community as a law enforcement officer, and is retired and is actually in a part-time management position at A-Town Park. We're proud to have him. So I thought it was important to introduce him to staff and council, because you very well might be hearing from him at some point. Anything to say, sir? No? I love embarrassing him. Really quickly, I still got another minute or so. The building, the awning, the surface area out back, it's with real sincere appreciation that I come before you to thank you tonight. It's been a challenge over the last several years, continuing to provide the programs that I strive to provide for the community with the deterioration that just because of time and weather and so forth has taken a toll on the facility. So we're very optimistic and really excited to kind of put the final touches on the outdoor park. And already, even though it's just a flat surface, it's being used a lot. And we have a lot of younger kids that are flourishing because it's hard to find a big flat level space to actually ride safely. And now we have that. So I really wanted to extend my appreciation. We have been, for a short period of time, doing a GoFundMe, and that's going to provide some of the resources needed to buy some new equipment for Outback, tables, lounge area, and just some needed materials, 2x4 and such. The last thing I want to say, Claire Parks. You have all met Claire Parks. Tomorrow morning at dawn, she gets on a plane and she's going to Tokyo, Japan to defend her repeat world championship title. For those of you that don't know, Claire Parks grew up at A-Town Park. She is the women's defending pro champion of the world at 18 years old. And she leaves tomorrow morning for 10 days competition in Japan. Finally, the slogan at A-Town Park. And this is really important because on and off over the years, you have seen me have to represent that there's no bias at A-Town Park. There's some older skateboarders in the community that are currently kicking rocks and would love to see a facility that caters to them rather than to the youth that we strive to provide the resource for. So for those guys, the slogan is, it's not what you ride, it's how you ride. That's the message from KPC tonight. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for those updates. And yes, we think it's beautiful. We're glad the city was able to get together with you and improve the facility.
I look forward to the ribbon cutting. That'll be a fun time. I think we're going to have a pro team come for that event, so we should have a good time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm David Athey. I'm here representing Fred and Carol Athey. They live at 7255 Portola Road. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We were unable to attend the general plan meeting 2 weeks ago. You know, it's unfortunate we couldn't come. We wanted to come. We've been involved in the process, but it's passed, and you know, you've directed staff to move forward. Before I comment though on tonight, I just want to thank Phil Dunsmore for coming out to my parents' property and taking a look. It's got a lot of high development potential for the city, you know, he did a really good job of explaining why the city council has decided to exclude some of the inner west side from a general plan update, and really smart growth on that side of town, which we consider smart growth, instead of just relying on things like SB9 and such. As I mentioned, he explained the reasons, which include it would cause the EIR to exceed capacity. I'm not really sure what that means, because EIR is just evaluate a project. And if there's a class 1 impact, which is, you know, you can't mitigate, then you do a statement of overriding considerations most of the time, and there's a benefit. So the benefit would be housing versus the environmental impacts that would occur. The other reason, SB 9 allows lot splits. It's the whole SB 9 again. Everybody kind of lost it when SB 9 came out. The truth is, SB 9 hasn't caused a flood of lot splits. This is just not an issue. It's another reason to do smart planning on the west side, the inner west side. The other reason was we're in a very high fire severity zone. Well, I looked it up and that's incorrect. We're in a high fire severity zone, as is most of Atascadero. And I also heard that we were excluded because we're in a WUI, I think it's called a WUI, wildland urban interface. Most of Atascadero would burn to the ground if we had the right wind conditions and the right temperatures. That's just an unfortunate truth about Atascadero. And another reason, really, all the WUI means is that you have to put fire sprinklers in. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about sewage. The LAMP, which you'll hear about tonight, actually identified that area of town as needing sewer upgrades. And I've been hearing that the sewer plant doesn't have capacity, but we're going to hear about the sewer plant tonight that you're upgrading. So my question is, was the sewer system expansion per the LAMP considered during the general plan development process? And if not, why not? Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I would have ordinarily asked staff, but I just didn't have time. So that's why I'm before council. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you for your comments. And as you noted, we will be discussing the wastewater situation a little bit later this evening. So you're welcome to stay for that. Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak at community forum? Okay, seeing no one approach, we will close community forum and we move on to our next item, which is item G1, a public hearing on an order to vacate a portion of public right-of-way on San Marcos, 11285 San Marcos Road. And I was going to turn this over to Mr. DeBar, but I see here it's actually going to be Mr. Ryan Hayes, our Deputy Public Works Director, who will present this item.
All right, thank you, Mayor Rabeau and Council. Do we have thank you. So you go to I can go to the next one. So a little bit of history. This is a property up on San Marcos Road. It is just south, kind of southeast of Los Altos Road intersection. Following the January 2023 storms, the road slid out at this location. We lost about half of the lane width for the southbound lane right there. And it was found that there was effectively the whole hillside right there is a slide. So we received an FHWA grant to construct a soldier pile wall at the location. And that was completed in fall of 2023. As we were doing that, I'm sure some of you are aware, not all of our roads were built exactly in the middle of our right-of-way that we had, and San Marcos is one of those. So while the soldier pile wall was constructed in the right-of-way, it is literally right up against the right-of-way on that side. We worked closely with the property owner there that owns an undeveloped parcel on the downhill side of this location. And it was determined that in order to be able to basically maintain that retaining wall, having an easement extended off of the edge of the existing right-of-way would be advisable. We negotiated with the property owner to basically exchange a section, vacate a portion of San Marcos Road that is pretty far off of the edge of the road in exchange for an easement, a permanent easement that would allow us to maintain that. So this is the resolution that will be before you tonight. We brought this a month ago, and then it was posted per requirements, state requirements. These are the two portions of property right here. The one on the left side, there is the portion that would be vacated by the city of the right-of-way. And then the exhibit on the right is the portion, the easement that would be given to the city. And this would be done concurrently, granted an easement and vacating the right-of-way concurrent with the property owner. And they've been excellent to work with. This is just another exhibit kind of showing that, and then also showing where the road is located within the right-of-way. There's actually, interestingly, originally when we were going through this, we thought that we needed right-of-way from the other side as well, but That had been given in the late 90s by the property owner on the other side because the road wasn't even constructed in the right of way. So the city had gone through that process to acquire a portion of right of way so the road was within it. So the recommendation is that council adopt the draft resolution ordering the vacation of a portion of the public right of way at 11285 San Marcos Road based on the findings consistent with the state of California Streets and Highways Code. That is it. Any questions?
Okay, do any members of the council have any questions for Mr. Hayes? I do have a question, given that we've had a number of slides in this vicinity and elsewhere over on the more hilly parts of town. We're vacating this portion. Is there any chance that 5, 10, 15 years from now, we might need it for the same purpose or are we able to basically identify the most at-risk portions of where these slides are most likely to occur?
It's interesting. So the portion that we're gaining property on through the easement is the actual portion of the active slide. So as part of the project with the FHWA's grant, the geotechnical engineer went out and mapped the slide limits, and the portion we'd be vacating is not within the slide limits.
But
So
it's
there's
not,
very little risk that anything will happen
Okay.
on that.
so it's not at risk of a future slide?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, seeing no other questions, I'm sorry, Councilmember Funk, you do have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll ask this and no sweat if you don't know the answer, but I was curious as to why we were able to get the funding to do the soldier pile on this location and currently haven't been able to address the situation on Old Morrow Road.
That's a good question. So the state of California classifies roadways as on network and off network depending upon their roadway classification. So if a roadway is classified as an arterial or a collector, major collector, it's considered an on network roadway. If it's a local street, it's considered off network. During emergencies, on network roads are eligible for FHWA funding and off network roads are not. A lot of it depends upon their traffic volumes on those roads or the whether they're needed to serve large areas. Since Old Morrow Road is kind of a side street, it's considered off network, but San Marcos Road is considered on network, is classified as on network.
Also, this road actually was used as an alternate path when a section of 41 was closed, right? So hence the interest by the Federal Highway Administration. Okay, all right. Seeing no further questions from council, we'll open this up to the public. If any member of the public would like to comment on this item. Okay, seeing no one approach, we'll return it back to council for a motion.
I'll move approval of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk, a second by Councilmember Peak. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
and Mayor Bobo.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. With that, we will turn to item G2 regarding 2026 CDBG or Community Development Block Grant draft recommendations. And this item will be presented by Mr. Ryan Betts from Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor Borbeau and Council. Ryan Betts, Public Works Analyst. It seems like it's back-to-back Ryan nights. We appreciate that. Here tonight to present the 2026 draft Community Development Block Grant recommendations. Next slide. Or do I have it? I have it. This is an annual opportunity for council to consider some funding from the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. Atascadero participates along with other agencies in the county as, quote, the Urban County Program. It is administered by the County of San Luis Obispo, of which they take an administrative fee, if you will, for that service. And as I mentioned, it's a federally funded program. As the annual grant for activities, it must meet a certain number of criteria to help benefit low and moderate low income persons. It also must aid the prevention or elimination of blight in the community of Atascadero. And finally, it must address any urgent needs that pose a serious and immediate threat to the health or welfare of the community. This year, the county estimates that the allocation for 2026, so that's actually next year, is approximately $176,000. As is in the last couple of years, we will know that final amount in the spring of 2026. So this really is the draft kind of proposed allocation by council. We will come back once we know that figure to council in the spring for final recommendations to the county. There are a couple of criteria for the CBG grant fundings. Public services maximum funding is 15% or $26,437. And the administration maximum funding is 20%, estimated at $22,000 to the county. And then a portion of that also goes to the city for administering the grant. As the grant applications went out, we received several of those to the city. The first category, if you will, is public facilities and housing projects. This year, we received 2 applications for that funding. Right now, the county estimates that we will have about $114,000 for public facilities and housing projects for next year. Those 2 applications were the city of Atascadero to invest in the Viejo Camino sidewalk and ADA improvements. The second application was from CAPSLO, or the Community Action Partnership of San Luis Obispo, for minor home repairs for residents that qualify for low and moderate low income in the city of Atascadero. I want to make sure that's a point. It's not just countywide, it's in the city. The second category is public services. These are limited to 15% of the allocation. City of Atascadero, as in past years, submitted one to help support our youth activities scholarship for low and moderately low income families to participate in youth activities. And the second one is from the El Camino Homeless Organization, otherwise known as ECHO, to help offset their operational expenses as they operate a navigation center here in the city. And then the rest is the administration. It's limited to 20%. As I mentioned before, a portion of that goes directly to the county. And then typically the city, the council allocates some funding to help administer the grant. Just a quick, I'll be very quick, summary of the proposed public facility. That is to do several improvements on Viejo Camino, that's right by Paloma Park, and next to some high density housing. That is to install some sidewalks on both sides of Viejo Camino, and probably more importantly, the enhanced crosswalk. The city typically does not do mid-block crossings because of safety concerns for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicle drivers. But in this case, staff is proposing a mid-block crossing only because of the safety features being proposed, which includes enhanced crosswalks. We believe that that would be a viable option to enhance pedestrian safety in that crucial corridor as those families and residents utilize Paloma Park. And with that, the recommendation before council tonight is to develop and adopt a draft funding recommendations for the 2026 Community Development Block Grant funds. Staff is here to answer any questions, and I will be assisted by Administrative Services Jerry Rangel with the kind of spreadsheet, if you will, where council can deliberate and figure out where they want the funding to go to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Betts. Let's start with the council questions. I'll start on my right with Councilmember Newsom.
Questions of staff or questions of those submitting applications?
Let's start with questions of staff. Then I'm sure we have, I see at least one representative. Any other, besides ECHO, or that any other applicant representatives in the audience? Okay, I think it's just ECHO. So let's start with staff. Do you have any questions for staff, or?
No.
Okay. Do you mind getting up now and going in and answer that? Okay, thank you. Wendy Lewis from ECHO.
Thank you, Wendy. My question is the application that you submitted for the operational expenses, is that, I think it was notated that it may be for both locations. Can you clarify?
Yeah, so the money that we've requested is has been the support that we've received from the city of Atascadero for many years, kind of a history of this partnership that we've built. And our application, actually, when I saw it come up, I would love to be able to share kind of some of the reasoning. The amount that we requested was the full amount, but that was when we submitted our whole package of county funding requests. It's all in this one big package. And the county at that time guided us to really just put in the largest amounts because there were so many funding unknowns out there on the horizon. I was here to talk in public comment, but I'd love to answer that now. We love the City of Atascadero Scholarships Program, and by no means would we want to take money away from that and pull to only support ECHO. We really love that partnership and would want to have it divided up in the most fair way possible. And so, yeah, this supports our overall operations, but it focuses on Atascadero and the work we do to support the 90-day program, the comprehensive case management, and really that ultimate goal to get people back into housing.
Okay, so the 26,000 would be staying in our city.
It would, but I'm saying we only want 13,400 and whatever the math is to fully fund the scholarship program and then have the difference help support ECHO and the people in Atascadero.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, Councilmember Funk.
Yes, if, for staff, if you could go back to the map and show us where the enhanced crosswalk would be and define what an enhanced crosswalk entails.
I can answer that question. So an enhanced crosswalk is anything, it's usually electronic or something more than just a marked crosswalk with signs. So it's, in this case, it would probably be a lighted signage, both sides, probably double faced on both of those posts, and then a push button to cross. And then probably also a street light at that intersection as well. So better lighting for the pedestrians to be seen by the motorist. Another enhanced crosswalk, the next level would be something across like we did on East Mall, a beacon honk or a traffic type signal would be the next level of enhanced crosswalk.
Okay, so what we're proposing and is where it says enhanced crosswalk on the map, is that where the crosswalk would be?
Yes.
Okay, so it would allow people who are using the park to come back up and get to and cross the street safely to get to the bus stop.
Yes. Yep.
That's on,
and
the
that,
southbound bus stop is on that location, right?
correct, on the south side of Vio Camino. So right now that is a bus stop, but it's just basically a gravel shoulder. So we'd actually put on sidewalk, curb gutter, and also like a pull up for the bus or a pad for a bus stop as well. If we get a shelter or not, we'll see. There's one that we can reuse or ask RTA to help us out.
Okay. And since those are improvements related to there being a bus stop there, are these different from the improvements that would ordinarily be expected of the property owners when that property develops?
If that property were to develop, they'd have to do curb gutter and sidewalk. In this case, we don't know when that development would, we don't know of any known active development on that site right now. So it's hard to say when that would develop. We do know, just the property just to the east of that is a Newton property that I know the council considered and approved some development on that property, but even that property, we're not sure when that might happen.
Okay, this is related to safety issues for
Correct.
kids.
Yes,
Okay, thank
this is one of probably the busiest bus stop that we have in town, to be honest. With the Bordeaux House across the street, there's a lot of folks that ride the bus here. The school district has bus stops here. So there's a lot of children that ride from there too.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
Yeah, on this crosswalk, on this section right here, people that are getting to that bus stop, they're crossing the street right there now, right?
They are.
So they're not walking along via Camino on, I guess it's the, let's see, the south side, which there's no sidewalk. That's not much foot traffic there at this point.
No.
So is there any reason why, okay, so you've got that full yellow line for proposed new curb gutter and sidewalk for this project. We've been chasing this for a lot of years, and every year we're short. And then the next year, the estimate goes up and it goes up, and it seems like we're never catching up to that. The estimate is quite a big range, 400 to 650,000. It seems like that could be a little tighter, but is there any reason why just a portion of that, in order to be able to make the budget, be done right where the bus stop is? So that way there is at least that portion with a bus stop and a cover or whatever it is that we're allowed to provide. I mean, can we do that to fit? Can we do what the budget allows rather than keep trying to chase that?
We can sure fit a project to a budget. I mean, it would just, that enhanced crosswalk, those are fairly expensive. And looking at Mr. Hayes, he put this estimate together. Ryan, do you think 400? Good. Okay, he's saying yes, we should be able to get all that in for 400.
And that, in the other little section over there towards the parking lot, so those two together. But I mean, if necessary, the longer yellow line, if we can shorten that up, there's no reason why that can't be done, right? It doesn't have to be the entire length, right? Desirable, but if somebody pulls a permit, they're gonna be required to finish that up anyway, right?
Yes, they would.
And I know it could be forever, but.
And on that south side, that longer yellow line, that actually ties into existing sidewalk to the west there that goes to El Camino. That intersection of El Camino, I mean, that would be the place we'd want people to cross, but it's very wide, it's very steep. It's got turning lanes in it, a really slanted island in the middle. It's just not very hospitable and.
Oh, and El Camino, yeah, yeah.
Right.
I don't like that intersection driving it either, so.
Yeah, and there's honestly to the south on the east side, there's of El Camino, east side of El Camino going to the south from Vio Camino to Santa Barbara. There's no current sidewalk right now either. So this is where people are crossing. And as much as I hate mid-block crosswalks, this probably is as better a good a candidate as anywhere, because of all the people that use it and how busy those two bus stops are on both sides of the road.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all I got.
Councilmember Peak.
Yes, the youth activity scholarship, historically, have we had amount that amount in the past? And has it been used to its fullest extent? And if so, do we need more? Are we just, is this a conservative, hey, here you are.
Hi, Councilmember Peak and Council. Good evening. It's Terry Banish, Community Services Director. I can answer all those questions. The amount spent on our scholarship last fiscal year was $13,000. 108 individuals were served as a part of that. And on average, we've been able to serve 60 to 80 families each year for the past few years. And we anticipate serving more. We use it all. We sure could use more. I'm looking to Jerry, but I know that for fiscal year 25-26, we have 14,205 in there to use for scholarship, but we have more and more demands for that. So it certainly goes a long way, and it goes beyond our own activities. It goes into all the leagues and organizations that we work with our youth on. So hopefully that's helpful.
Definitely.
Okay.
And then the administration cost of 20% max, we want to make sure that we estimate enough to where we don't pay out of pocket for that. The SLO County 13%, is that an accurate number if we give less or we don't do cap SLO, or that number, if that number changes, does the program administration with the county change dollar amount?
That's a fixed amount based upon the totality of the amount.
Okay.
So we almost have to think of that as off the top.
So okay. That seems odd, but doesn't mean it isn't. It's true. Before I
move on, because I don't foresee talking again. I'd be in favor of the Via Camino sidewalk.
Let's go ahead and hold off till after we have public comment before we
Okay.
indicate our first choices. So, okay, I have a question. I think you kind of answered it, Mr. DeBar. So there is, the yellow line meets up with existing sidewalk on the left side of this picture, correct? So,
Yes.
and so the sidewalk would then, and would gather in terms of responding to Mayor Pro Tem Daraz's question, the reason you want it to go all the way to Bocina is, or across the street from Bocina Lane, is because that's where the crosswalk would go if you did the crosswalk.
That's correct.
Okay, but the price range, is so large, 400 to 650, because of the crosswalk. So we're saying if we didn't do the crosswalk, it would be closer to 400, and if we do the crosswalk, it might be closer to 650. Is that what we're trying to say?
When I want to, I probably shouldn't do this, but I remember last year when we were sitting here and Mayor, you asked me, is this going to be enough to do the project? And I said, I believe so. And we weren't looking at an enhanced crosswalk. We kind of looked at that and had determined that they need to cross this road somewhere. There's a lot of people that use a bus and, there's not so, it's primarily for the bus, and they're going to be crossing here even if we did improve the crosswalk at El Camino and Vio Camino, across Vio Camino. It wouldn't be used that much, I don't believe, as much as right here, and people would still probably just cross here, the kids and the folks using it. So if we do a mid-block crosswalk, which we really don't like to do because, unless they're enhanced. And so with that enhanced crosswalk, that additional technology and infrastructure kind of necessitates some additional funding to it.
Okay, so I've asked this question in prior years, but I want to ask it again because you've got money from 2021 CDBG grants sitting here, 24 and 25. When does the 21 money expire? I mean, especially if we say we want to enhance crosswalk here as, funded by CDBG, that's at least another 2 years out. At some point, we have to spend the 2021 money or give it back, right?
That's correct. I mean, the county's been, with these bigger projects, in the past, this year, actually, we've gotten a lot more than past years, but it's 100, in the past years, we've had like 140 or something. So, $114,000 isn't a lot costs have really escalated and everything else. So it's not, you can't really do a big project for that amount. So we typically have to, allocate a few years towards it. For this additional one, I'm gonna give Mr. Hayes again, and I believe we can do it for an enhanced crosswalk and get it done.
Okay, because I mean, if we've allocated 268,000 and we're looking at up to 116,000 this year, that brings us to 382-ish, 384, below the low end of the estimate. I'm just wondering how many years they let us keep that 2021 money on the books for this project that never doesn't seem to quite get here.
Yeah, they've and it's had other monies reallocated to it from, like, say, the Santa Rosa sidewalk, or a lot of times we don't always spend our allocation of the administrative costs, so that usually rolls over also to these projects.
So the other question is, and it's kind of been alluded to, that normally if somebody wants to develop their property in a situation like this, they would be responsible for the installing curb gutter and sidewalk. You indicated, or Ryan Betts did, that there's no currently proposed development activity for what looks like these 3 lots that front the yellow project area. Is there, now sometimes if we have one property owner develop, sometimes they might put in a curb gutter and sidewalk, and then other property owners might have to reimburse down the road for them. But since we would be using public funds here, I assume we have no recourse when these 3 lots, let's say, come in and develop. We have no recourse to say, hey, we spent $400,000 on this sidewalk out here, which is benefit to you as the property owner. You should, pay some in lieu fee or anything. Is that, what's the, this might be a legal question. Is there any prospect of that, or is this a matter of once we use taxpayer, albeit federal taxpayer money, that the property owner has derived a potential future benefit or cost reduction?
In the absence of a formal reimbursement agreement with the property owner, as a condition of development, it'd be hard to recoup that. As with any of the city infrastructure where the city has constructed sidewalks along the way on its own, it's the same type of thing. It's a public service being provided with taxpayer funds. We try to reimburse the public by imposing development costs on developers as they come in, but it's not a one-to-one ratio. In other words, we can't build entirely on private development.
All right, thank you. And so, okay, I think we'll turn it over to the public then, and we'll come back for our comments and any further thoughts and then recommendations. So any member of the public wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. Wendy, I think Echo really, you already kind of in answering questions, may have spoken your piece. I don't know.
Good evening again. So Wendy Lewis with El Camino Homeless Organization. I do want to expand a little bit about, we have the same process with the city of Paso. So we do have asks in for both communities, and we have had a track record of having those partnerships in both communities. When we did open Echo Paso Robles, that money used to support Atascadero, but because it's in that community, they kind of really preferred it there. And so both cities are really looking at this in a similar way. When these funds are available to us to put into use and to really provide the program, and we do at ECHO, we will here in Atascadero have those 90 beds open. So currently we have 60 beds, and at that time we will have the 90 beds serving even more families with children. The one thing that isn't fun to share is we've been following a lot of national data, and when it comes to people that are experiencing homelessness in a faster manner. Unfortunately, it's seniors and families with children at kind of unprecedented numbers. And so the support here will really help us support those families in getting their pathway back into housing. There was a recent data we found that 1 in 30 children in America will experience homelessness within a year. And so that's why this partnership and ECHO really providing those very extensive services for all individuals, but also families with children, where comprehensive case management in our 90-day program, programs for their families with workforce development, financial literacy, parenting classes for the children themselves, things from reading programs, tutoring to art programs. It really is a very comprehensive program. And when you look to traditional homeless services and outcomes, if 10% of the people that are coming into your programs achieve the housing goal, that's considered good. At ECHO, we continue to year after year see that 60% success rate. And because we've really helped that person find the tools themselves for self-sufficiency, 90% remained housed once we support them into housing. And so through this partnership and the ongoing partnership, we'll just continue that work, but we'll be able to provide it for 90 people in the 90 beds that we'll have at that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no one else approach from the public, we will bring this back to council for discussion. Ms. Rangel, are you the one with the spreadsheet up here to input individual council members'
Mayor
recommendations?
If I could maybe just address that Vio Camino sidewalk project. We can also bid that out with bid alts, so we could actually have that enhanced crosswalk as a part of the base bid. And we are also designing this in-house, so we're saving some consulting costs.
Excellent.
there as
I was going to kind of suggest that we look at potentially doing it without, but all bid alternatives in the bid would make the most sense, it seems to me. So, okay, thank you for interjecting that. That leads to a question by Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
Yeah, well, I was kind of getting to this and I didn't get to it. On the cost of that full length, forget about the enhanced crosswalk. I think that's a good idea. What is the approximate cost per foot of a curb gutter and sidewalk project? How much could be saved if we just did right where the bus stop is? Because that's where they're going to cross and they're going to stay there and get on the bus. So walking along that. So if 75% of this was not built, what's the approximate cost savings there?
Yeah, we'd have to look at that and see, but I mean, that's certainly doable too, as you're suggesting building the portion on the easterly side by where the crosswalk would go.
Yeah.
And then leaving that other section to the west unbuilt. And we can certainly look at that as we bid this out, and that could be another bid alt. We just do a base sidewalk portion.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question because if I'm understanding this correctly, the folks crossing the street, if they're coming from, let's say, Bordeaux House, they're not going to walk past the point of the bus stop to walk down to the enhanced crosswalk. They're not going to do it. They're just going to cross over. And for the folks coming from the other side, let's say, La Paloma Court or from the park, it's just as easy for them to walk up to, across the street from the bus stop and walk across to the bus stop, although perhaps not as safely as with enhanced crosswalks. So I would agree with that, you should look at maybe from a 3-cost perspective, just doing it down to the bus stop, doing it all the way to Bocina, and then doing that with the crosswalk. So, okay, let's go to Councilmember Peak with your recommendations and thoughts.
Yeah. I think that the youth activity scholarship, I think it's just based on our history of using all of it, there's a lot of opportunity there to encourage and to prop up our youth even further. I'd like to see that increased for sure. And any difference, awarding to Echo's request as well. But I would like to see that youth scholarship increased. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And if we had an increase, I just think that bolstering our youth is a prophylactic to some of the bigger issues that younger adults get into.
Do you have a suggestion amount? Because she needs to plug in a number.
18,000.
Okay. So 18,000 and the balance going to Echo in that category?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got it. We'll let Jerry do the math there. Okay. Your thoughts on the city and the Capslow request?
Oh, definitely award the full 114 to Viejo Camino.
Okay. Got it. Okay, and I think that's it. So let's move on to Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
Thank you. I was actually thinking of trying to award some to Capslow, but I think getting this sidewalk done is important. I don't want to keep chasing it every year. So I'll stick with the maximum amount that we can in the public facilities portion. The youth pardon me? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. On the youth scholarships, yeah, I was thinking up in that too, but I was just kind of up in a little bit more, to 15, and then the remainder. So somewhere in between, I think Councilmember Peak, I'm happy to go with what he said, but I'll stick with that, start with that, and then we'll see how the rest of my colleagues respond, and then I'll adjust from there, I suppose. But anyway, those are my 2 recommendations.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Funk.
Yes. I too want to make sure that we finally get the Viejo Camino sidewalk repairs done and get a crosswalk that can work, can keep kids safe in that area where we have so many kids that are active. So I'd put the full 114, 561 on that project. And I would do that with great respect to Capslow and appreciation that they're asking for a small amount of money that could do some very significant improvements, and encourage them to engage with our excellent community of volunteers here in Atascadero, where our typical way of getting things done. And so, Kiwanis members, maybe we would have some folks who might step up, or Rotary might help out, and do some of those repairs that Capslow might identify, because the groups locally who might be in best position to give a little bit of money or donate some materials or donate some sweat equity to making something work for an older resident who needs a ramp to be able to get up the stairs or get to the mailbox or something. Those kinds of small but very powerful repairs, the folks who could do them or fund them locally don't necessarily know who really needs the work. And so if Capslo could get together with those folks, I think there's an opportunity to maybe make some of that happen creatively. On the public services, I do want to make sure we fund the youth activity scholarships to the full extent that staff has requested. There's, I don't, and in particular with ECHO opening up family services, that needs likely to grow over time. So I put them at the 13,500 and expect that that's probably going to need to grow in the following year, even as ECHO's own needs grow, and then put the rest of the services to ECHO to support their excellent results in getting people from this community out of the creek beds and out of vehicles into permanent housing that they can keep and become productive in.
Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you. I too would like to award to the city of Atascadero's project. I know it's hard when you have two different agencies to pick through, but I always argue that if you're going to ask for grant or funding, that you be present to answer some of the questions. So I always encourage those that are completing those applications to be present so that we can ask additional questions and understand their needs. The next one I'd like to give for scholarships. We've always argued that that's our huge priority and it does make an impact. I would be happy to stay anywhere between 15 and 18. So I would probably start with 15,000 and maybe look at Councilmember Peaks if we get to a consensus on that.
All right, thank you. I would like to put the maximum available, the 114,561 towards the city project, but this is the last year I want to see this project. I want to see the project done and don't want it to drag into another year. So if my colleagues agree with that, I would like to consider that as guidance to Public Works. On the other one, our city staff only asked for 13.5, so I don't, I'm not particularly inclined to increase that. So my choice is 13.5 and the balance to echo that. Now, as the finance director inputs this data, you'll notice, of course, and the public will notice that essentially it has each council member's input with a divide by 5 to come out with the average. So that would be our answer unless anybody wants to kind of reconsider in light of the comments we all made. That would put us at 15 for the youth activity scholarships with only 11,437 for ECHO. Does anybody, you guys just want to roll with that, or anybody have any further commentary? Good. Okay, looks like staff has our guidance. Any further questions from staff for us?
You guys are all okay with the administrative costs?
Yes.
Okay.
As you indicate, that's pretty much a given each year. So, okay. With that, we've reached our conclusion on that item. We've provided staff our guidance, but this will come back again as a final recommendation at what, 3 months, or is it longer than that?
Yeah, typically around February or March.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Thank you. With that, we will move on to our next item for the evening, item H1, which is regards the city manager's task force on wastewater report and the wastewater treatment plant project update. And I'm going to turn this one over to the city manager, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm pleased to share with you an update on a very hardworking task force of citizens, the city manager's task force on wastewater. And I think this came about some time ago when we were looking at adjusting sewer rates. And the council was very concerned about the road that we were going to need to travel to solve this very challenging problem, and really wanted us to have good public engagement and input. and really work with put a committee together to really help us. And so you can see on June 10th, that's exactly what you asked us to do, put that together, and then look forward to move forward with a wastewater user classification study, inflow and infiltration study, and get this task force going. And I'm really pleased to share with you it was very successful. I'm going to feature the committee's work here in just a little bit and recognize some of the people who were on it. But really the idea was this problem or this challenge is very vast and very multifaceted, and really getting a committee of people representing all types of our community, people with experience in wastewater, people who are financial experts, homeowners who pay the wastewater bill, business owners, heavy users of the system, managers of sewer systems at other institutions, really trying to get a big cross-section of people. And I believe we were successful in that. And so the objectives when we started out, we really wanted this group first and foremost to become experts. It was like a university really getting up to speed. And we had two council members, Councilor Peak and Funk, were on this, so they can attest to that. Learning how wastewater systems work and operate, because if they're going to advise us on solutions and opportunities, they need to understand how they operate. And then really understanding the challenges. So feedback would be constructive, and that we would be moving forward with real solutions. So we wanted to make sure the committee understood the challenges. We wanted to make sure this is a challenging problem here, and how did we get here? This situation wasn't just done because this council or staff made a tough decision or missed a decision a year ago. This challenge was built out over 30, 40 years of decision-making by the city. And so this is the group that needs to solve this, and I'm confident we will. And so we wanted to make sure the committee understood the nature of the situation we're in. We talked about several potential solutions and paths, and then asked for their advice and feedback. And the committee will continue to meet, but I want to show you what we talked about. So we met four times actually, from July through September. Our meetings were usually 90 minutes. Some went just a little over. Our task force is not done, so we're going to share some kind of guiding principles the task force wanted to share with you this evening. But there'll be more work when we get the information back on the volumetric analysis and options for the council to consider for setting rates, and looking at, as we start, if you approve the contract this evening for design work, kind of being briefed on that and parameters for design and partnership. So we had several presentations at each of these. We'd recap the previous meeting and give people a chance to ask questions and share their thoughts. And so we did come up with a list of endorsements or principles I want to share with you at our last meeting. I believe that's my next slide. Oh, here's some of the topics, just so you can kind of see the things we talked about. I do want to compliment Ryan Hayes and Mr. DeBar and the staff, and Tim, our wastewater manager, who really put some great presentations together over the course of this. And so these were the endorsements. Oh, our members are next year. So who was on this committee? And I want to just share publicly, these folks spent tens of hours in these meetings and reviewing homework and sharing their thoughts with us, and they're not done. And so some of them are here in the audience. I'll ask them to stand when I'm done reading. But Barbara Lynch, a resident, she's a retired engineer, a city engineer for San Luis Obispo. Derek Stoltzfus, he owns a laundromat in town. Greg Squires, who owns the Parable Group and Story Labs and also lives here. Grigor Jones, a board member of the Atascadero Mutual Water Company and long-term resident. Joey Farrell, who's the chairperson of the Atascadero Chamber of Commerce. John Neal, the general manager of the water company and a licensed civil engineer. Judy Hemingway, a resident and on the senior center board and also a retired engineer. Marcus Henderson, a resident and the water resources manager for Cal Poly. Mark Marshall, who owns JM Construction. He's a business owner doing a lot of construction in the community. He also lives here. Max and Mike Zappas, builders and residents who also have several commercial and multifamily properties. Council members Peak and Funk, and Straith Smith Zanartu, who is a retired SLO County Finance Division manager and had experience with Los Osos sewer project. So first of all, a couple of you here, would you mind us just standing up and being recognized? Thank you for your time. Don't be shy. All right. Come on now, there they are. There's two of them. Thank you very much for your effort. You're not done yet, but it was a huge effort, and I really appreciate their time. And I believe Straith is on the Zoom, so thank you to her as well. So these committee came together, and here are some things that they came forward with that I would like to get your feedback on, council, but I think these are very thoughtful endorsements and recommendations thus far. The first is the group really desired that we continue to own and operate the wastewater treatment plant. We did discuss should we sell it? Should we do a public-private partnership, a third-party involvement? But the group really absolutely suggested that we need to own it and work this out and continue to operate it, not sell it. That would certainly not make our rates cheaper or the operation cheaper. The committee, we talked about alternatives of growth, that as the city grows and we build more housing types and raise heights and densities so people can afford to live here, should we continue to grow? We have a number of commercial projects. The committee really did not want the system, the lack of developing in the system to impede future growth. But they were very clear that we need to really make sure we understand that growth recovers all of the impacts and costs. So existing ratepayers are not saddled by growth with costs on their operational bill. And so this is one of the things we'll be looking at as we look at new rates and connection fees next year. They were really concerned about the underlying data for salts and some of the guidelines that the Regional Water Quality Board was holding us to. And they really, really wanted to encourage and suggest that we push back on those requirements. We question the data and really question whether some of the salt treatments that are incredibly expensive are necessary. And so they really wanted us to continue to push back on those and look at the underlying science and data. There's obviously, we've shared that the Atascadero State Hospital has asked us to connect to something that they're very interested in, as their plant is really not functioning as well anymore, and it also is in the same permit situation we are. So we talked to the committee about that, and while we recognize that connecting to ASH would be a very good service and it adds subscribers, which lowers the unit cost per person connected to the system, that the impacts and costs of that need to fully be borne by the Atascadero State Hospital. But they were certainly open and understood the benefit of that. They understand that the more partnerships we have with other agencies and connections, the more we can spread out some of these fixed costs that, again, lower the unit cost. And so they encouraged us to pursue partnerships with other nearby agencies who may be in similar situations, recognizing the scale of the plant and the scale of connections. They very strongly felt that a new volumetric analysis and study for how rates are determined with user classifications, rate schedules should be reviewed. And so we are doing that work. Interestingly enough, they also wanted to consider not just consumption, but distance and kind of how many lift stations that your waste passed through and how long your waste traveled to the plant as potentially things that could be considered and how sewer bills were calculated. So the closer proximity you have to the water plant should your bill reflect that, as opposed to a property that goes through 2 or 3 lift stations. And so very supportive of that work to do that analysis, and definitely being advocate for additional state and federal funding sources. So these were some of the statements that we reached at the end. I wanted to share those with you. I think they're very thoughtful. There was much debate and deliberation. So that's kind of the task force. I do want to show just a few other things before we turn it over. I'll turn it over actually to Mr. Hayes now to talk about the system itself, kind of where we are and what we discussed with the committee.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And I want to express some appreciation too. That was not an easy task force to run, and I thought you did an excellent job with it. So not that everyone on there was great. It's just so much information to get out there, and conveying that was a challenge. And so, but it was excellent to have. So wastewater system update along with the task force that we just went through. So council members Peak and Funk, you'll know a lot of this already, obviously, but this is going to be fairly brief right now, but it kind of plays into where we're going with the next item with the design engineering. This is where we're at right now in the process, and we did not just start in 2024. We started in 2019, 2020 with an alternatives analysis of really looking and recognizing that we needed to move forward with a new treatment plant. That largely was the result of the new general permit that came out in 2020. So in 2024, we've moved into kind of this pre-design design phase, and that included a salt compliance strategy development. Mr. Lewis discussed a little bit the salts element of it. We can talk a little bit more about that, but there is figuring out what to do on that front is a key part of the design. And then pre-design planning, 2025. Oh, now that's a lot louder. 2025, the public engagement, which included this wastewater task force, and then secondary selection and preliminary design. So that's where we're at right now. Secondary selection would be what we would be getting the design engineer involved in, and the preliminary design. 2026 would be detailed design, and some interim water wastewater treatment plant improvements to get us along until a new plant was able to be constructed, because we have some difficulties in high water years with big rains. And then 2027 detailed design, and 2028 through 2030 or 2031's construction of the secondary upgrades. So that is the general big picture schedule. Did I skip a? Oh no, that's in the next one. Sorry, getting my presentations confused. Our wastewater treatment plant upgrade next steps. So where we're at right now is initiating design. If council chooses to move forward with that, that would initiate the design engineering, just phase 1 with Black and Veatch. Also, we continue our public outreach and engagement. As Mr. Lewis mentioned, there's potential as we get into looking at rates and the volumetric analysis, and I with getting that task force back together. That's probably the key public engagement element. And then explore regional partnerships. We've done a little bit of that already, discussing our wastewater treatment plant, what's coming along with some of our neighboring agencies, and then ASH, of course. The customer user classification study, which is going to be commencing soon, and then we'll go through fall of 2026 and potential rate adjustments and studies, although we don't have any details on those right now. Just kind of a why now, where are we at? This is the treatment plant itself. The number, or the blue bar, is where we're at in average daily flow at the treatment plant. It's just under 1.4 million gallons per day. Our wastewater treatment plant can handle 1.4 million gallons per day. So we're there. In orange, those are basically committed projects that we have coming down the line, and ASH. So those are big projects. We put together a spreadsheet of what we have anticipated coming online in the next couple of years, 3 to 5 year time frame, and it's about 350,000 gallons per day on top of the 1.4 million gallon base flow that we have. And then as it continues out, that's just effectively growth of the city without even any additional projects or significant growth. So that's why the treatment plant is kind of at this critical juncture right now. We also would, the critical, or the treatment plant is kind of the big picture item, or the big item, but we also have collection system element to this as well. You'll see that kind of at the end with costs, but this exhibit right here, I think, is a good example of, or it shows where our primary concerns are with our collection system. A lot of our collection system was built, without getting too into the details, in the 70s and the 80s. The pipe is actually in pretty good condition, but as growth has happened in the city, a lot of those pipes are now undersized. So with large storm events, we can have overflows in these areas. These are our primary areas of concern that were identified as part of Corolla's collection system master plan. So the key takeaway on this is that we are also obligated both to treat the wastewater and to not let it overflow within our system by the State Regional Water Quality Control Board. And so we need to be, we're obligated to be doing improvements or restricting growth in areas to not allow for overflows in the collection system. This is a summary, and this is a giant number, I get that. There's no easy way to go about that, but this is the complete 10-year wastewater program if everything were to be done dollars. The WRF right now is estimated at approximately $130 million, but we'll be working with the design engineer, if that's this next step, to figure out ways to do that as cost effectively as possible, obviously. The collection system improvements at $110 million was what was driven out of the Corolla's collection system master plan. And that's everything. They looked at current issues that we have in our system and then future as well, build out per the general plan, and where we would need to improve the collection system in order to have capacity. And then operations and maintenance is just what it will take to maintain and operate the system over the next 10 years. So this is a 10-year cost, but obviously we can look at a lot of alternatives for pushing things out or moving things around.
Mr. Hayes, I'd like to speak to this a little bit, because this slide is staggering. And so I want to make sure it's very clear to the council and the community what we're showing and what we aren't showing. So This is a snapshot. I think it's important to be transparent to you and the community that if we did everything we've been told to do to bring the system up to a silver level, we've expanded it the way we should, we've expanded mains, we've prepared and expanded lift stations, and we have a new wastewater plant. That's an estimate to that number. Now, let me first start with the water plant improvements. There's been understandably some, how does this number change every time we look at it? And I think it's important for the community to know, just, not that long ago, back in 2020, we were talking about a $30 million plant. And I think there's a couple things to understand. Since that time, the regulatory framework for what we're required to do has dramatically shifted to make things more challenging, more stringent. More so in this area of pipes and pumps and concrete, you've had costs more than double over that time. And so that's why that number has jumped significantly over the last 5 to 6 years. Then there's question, well, how does that number come about? Is it really 130 million? Is it 120 million? I can tell you that the wastewater plant will not be 40 million, and it certainly wouldn't be 250 million. And I think there's frustration. That's why we need to move into design to understand really what it is we're building, the size of what we're building, so we can narrow that cost. As we get into design and learn more information, we'll get a more specific price point. So that number is based off of if you cost per gallon of recent wastewater plants that were built as a best estimate. So is it 15% more, 15% less? And that's why that number kind of changes. So within that number is also the design contract that you'll be considering next. So that is in that number. But that's why that number has been moving. So I wanted the community to understand that. I think it's pretty clear to all of us that we cannot invest $300 million in 10 years. That's so I just want to be very clear about that. We have to move forward on the wastewater plant. As you saw, you're at capacity. We're not compliant regulatorily with our new permit. And so we have to address that. So that is the priority as we talk about rate policy and where we're headed, is addressing that. Then noting that means we are only putting a couple $100,000 to small millions towards our collection system over that next 10 years. We aren't in a place where I think we can even fund close to that 110 million. But we would hope that through development and looking at our connection fees and making sure development projects are paying their share, it will address some of that $110 million. And so I just wanted to elaborate that we're not asking for $30 million a year from 5,500 customers. That doesn't even pencil out. And so, but it goes to show the gravity of the challenge. And I do want to remind the council that from 1994 to 2019, councils before you did not raise the wastewater rate. And that then has underfunded our system while our system aged. And that makes this gravity of the decision before you even more challenging. So I just wanted to put that chart a little bit in perspective, that we're not asking for 300 million in expenses or $30 million a year. Likely that number would probably be $6 million a year in debt service, somewhere right, $6-7 million, depending on how we go, with another million or so in collection system improvements. That's probably what we can afford, but that's still going to require rate adjustments. And that's why we're doing these studies and trying to understand. And with numbers this big and a system this complex, that's why the task force is so important. So I just wanted to put that chart in context. I think Mr. Hayes, it's back to you.
I have one or two more slides. I don't know if you'd like to speak on this, Marie, but these were what came out of June 10th's meetings from council, good direction to staff, and just wanted to give an update on that. Mr. Lewis has already given his update on the task force on wastewater, so that initial work's complete. But then also letting you know the I&I study you awarded in October is moving forward. I was actually just at a conference call this morning with the consultant on that, on planning that out and getting ahead of, well, not these storms. You actually don't want to do it ahead of these storms, but ahead of the winter storms. And then the wastewater user classification, those proposals come in next week, and we'll be selecting a consultant for that as well. So we are moving forward on all three of those items that council gave direction on. Okay. In summary, city staff, engaged the wastewater task force. And there was just from a engineer's perspective, there was a lot that came out of that was excellent. Honestly, it was a really good group, and I think a lot of great direction came out of that for staff. The task force agreed on those 7 key recommendations, and then as in that last slide, multiple efforts are ongoing. And as Mr. Lewis just noted a lot more eloquently than I did, the city is facing significant near-term growth constraints due to both the wastewater collection system and treatment plant, but there's options out there. And then future rate increases are expected to be able to finance these improvements that are going to be needed over the next 5 to 10 years. So there's no actionable item on this, but the recommendation is that council review and file report, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hayes. We'll start with questions from council to staff. I understand since Councilmember Peak, Councilmember Funk have served on the city manager's study group. You guys won't have many questions, but you might have more comments based upon what you already heard during those sessions. So I'll turn first to Councilmember Newsom to see what questions you have of staff.
I was very fortunate to have several hours of time with the staff, so thank you for enduring that throughout the day and working me into our holiday schedule. So I'm not going to ask any more questions. Staff was very diligent about providing me the information, reviewing the budget numbers, and really talking through everything they presented. So I do appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Thank you for asking questions of staff ahead of time. I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Dares and then to the other two.
All right, thank you. I know this question has been asked before, and I think Mr. Lewis will probably be the one to answer, I think. Is there now or in the future, near future, the possibility of state funds or grants or anything that would be able to help fund this? I know it's been asked before, but I just want anybody watching to maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a
hear
great
that again.
question. So we do have our advocates looking. When Prop 4 was passed, there was money for water in that, and that is being used to supplant the State Water Revolving Fund and backfill some other state projects. So at the moment, it doesn't appear, and much of the money is going into Central Valley towns for water quality and more urban areas. And so right now, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of money to pluck off the state tree, and the federal tree hasn't funded yet the recycle water program that we were familiar with. So right now, it's not looking great for big money coming from Sacramento or the federal government, but things can always change. We have a few years to chase, and we will be aggressive.
Okay, Councilmember Funk, do you have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I do have one on the, for the benefit of the public that's watching and listening. If you could, you've mentioned that there were new state requirements that we're responding to, and that, and as well as expectations of growth. So can you explain what it is that the folks who have been here all the time, as ratepayers, are now needing to do, why there's such a large cost that will affect existing ratepayers that's not related to the development of new projects? We saw those big costs for that, yeah.
So I think to answer that question most easily, the large costs and part of the cost escalation over the last several years was there was we run a very simple plant. For those that don't know, it is a pond system, a lagoon system. And so it takes a lot of time. And one of the things that it does not treat for is nitrogen. It doesn't take the nitrogen out of the wastewater that comes through. And so there's not really a way to cost effectively retrofit our existing plant. And so the regulatory requirements that came in 2020 put a new limit on nitrogen that we had not had before. And that was the driver on requiring us to build just a new secondary treatment type. So a brand new plant instead of retrofitting the existing plant. And so I don't know if I answered the question well, but that was the big driver on the cost, is not being able to kind of retrofit and make changes to the existing plant, but having to build a brand new one.
Okay. And is it fair to say that the requirements on nitrogen ultimately are related to concerns about the impact on human health, such as pregnant women and very young children?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Peak, any questions? Only comments. Great. Thank you. We'll save that for after public comment. I have a question on the mind numbing chart, with the mind numbing number. Included in that is 60 million for operations and maintenance. Can you address what would constitute that? I mean, we have, we pay for staff and we pay for routine maintenance. Nowhere to that degree or that magnitude currently. What would drive that such a significant increase in operations and maintenance expenditures?
I can answer this question, hopefully. With the new plant, this is assuming some of these costs, assuming that a new plant comes on board and everything else. Right now, our current plant doesn't have really any electricity. It has some electricity needs with the aerators, but this new plant it's not going to be a more organic treatment plant like we have right now. It's actually going to be much more technical. It's going to have a lot more electricity needs, instead of just letting sewage flow through the plant and get treated. We'll have to like pull it with pumps through membranes or other mechanisms.
So so not only is it more expensive, it's going to cost more to run?
Will cost more to run.
And will it require more staff to run as well?
It will require more staff to run and more highly trained staff. Right now,
Yeah. Okay. So triple whammy. I mean, more expensive to build, more expensive to operate, and more expensive to staff.
Correct.
Okay. So can't win. Okay. In terms of ASH's participation, they are, as you or the city manager mentioned, they are under the gun. They have to comply with the same new permitting process. So without us, they would have to build a brand new plant as well, correct?
That's correct.
And that would cost them tens of millions of dollars, I assume.
Also correct.
Okay, so so you look at their participation in this, that would have the likelihood, I assume, of substantially bringing down the actual WRF, the wastewater recovery facility improvement number.
Yeah, we're still working with Ash through that negotiation process on what their participation
Understand,
would
but I mean,
be, but it would be a significant amount. They
right.
would
I mean,
be
I'm just trying to put it in
10%
ballpark.
of our-
We're not talking $1 or $2 million in terms of their participation. We're talking, we'd be saving them tens of millions of dollars, presumably.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So that's good to know. And the I&I study, the infiltration and whatever the other thing was, we're doing that in December in the middle of winter. I assume, is that a good time to be doing it then? Because you're able to see where like water's leaking out or rainwater's seeping in. So is December a good time to do that?
Yeah, you optimally want, well, you have to really do it during the rainy season. So they'll set, it's pretty cool. They'll set meters all around town in our manholes. And then they're very diligent. They watch all the forecasts, the rain forecasts, everything. And then they'll set those in there and then they monitor all of those. And yeah.
Okay.
So you
And
want to be doing it January, February, March.
And so to the extent that they find places where water's leaking into the system, and if that can be fixed, that will in essence create or restore capacity for new development, right?
Yes, that's correct. Well, a little bit. There's two elements that our average daily flows that we have are right at our capacity right now anyway. Those really resolve the high peak flows during rain events, which is also another issue that we face at the plant.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's all I have. So I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Dares has a question.
Thanks. Yeah, just one question for Nick or Ryan. As it's stated in here, that we're servicing about 5,500 customers, parcels. How does the ASH size equate to that? Put it in perspective, if you were to transfer that to the number of parcels or customers, I mean, what percentage-wise, or what's the?
EDUs.
Yeah, yeah. So how does that compare?
So
Increasing what we'd be building.
right. So they're equivalent to, and we're still negotiating and requiring some. We build these capacity charges on flow and strength. So how strong it is, all based upon a single family home, domestic wastewater. And they're going to be somewhere between like 1,000 and 1,400 EDUs. So,
that's significant. Yeah,
All right, thank
very
you.
significant.
and we have
Okay.
about 9,000 right now in our system. So EDUs, yeah, so they'll be about maybe.
Okay, all right, thank you. Seeing no other questions from council of staff, we'll see if any member of the public wishes to comment on this item. Okay, no members of the workforce or the work group. Great, thank you again for your participation now in the process. Let's bring it back to council for discussion, comments, and any guidance we want to give staff this evening. Okay, I'll start with Councilmember Funk.
Sure, thanks. I'd like to personally thank everybody who served on and has served and is still serving on on the city manager's wastewater task force. They really did work hard at this. I also want to thank staff for a really thoughtful and thorough process to bring a rich range of community leaders of varied backgrounds up to speed on these terribly challenging issues. I also want to call to mind that back in the spring, when staff brought to us a request for a rate increase this year, with the expectation that there was going to be another one of similar magnitude next year, because of this range of costs, that I pushed back really hard on this, on City Manager Lewis, and because because of exactly the experience that he mentioned, that in the time that Councilmember Newsom and I have been on the council, the cost of this thing has gone up from, well, we think this is about a $30 million project, which is a big deal in this community, to the numbers that you saw tonight. And this is just, whoa there. We gotta really look at this. And I asked staff to show really intent progress on reducing the cost, sharing the cost, getting somebody else to help pay the cost, distributing the cost fairly, finding a way to finance the cost, and helping people who would be affected by the increase in costs. And so what you see in this work that the task force recommendations is real attention to some of those. I mean, let's reduce the cost by pushing back at the state about the requirements that they have on salts that are just bogus. And we don't have to go into detail, but that's a really good place to push back. To share the cost with creative partnerships. And I see staff working hard to bring, it looks like Ash is going to come in, looking, that's not the limit of what staff's willing to look at in terms of partnerships, that when we have a bigger group of ratepayers, everybody shares in some of the fixed costs, and there's somewhere in there a sweet spot that makes this better off for everybody that's involved. Also, I mean, seeking grant funding, we're laying, so I see staff working to lay the groundwork for that, even though this is not a great environment to hope to get a lot of that. But, maybe there are some creative ways. We're working on things, and I've been in communication with Senator Laird's office about some of those more creative opportunities. Certainly, if Ash is paying, something that reflects the savings that we generate for them by their coming in, then the prison budget helps us in funding this project, and that's a better place to find it than some other places in the budget. It's also distributing the cost fairly. That's the item that the staff brought to us, a couple of meetings ago, about the ratepayer study. And, going back to the classifications and figure out, how things really compare so that it's fair. And we're not yet at the stage of, financing it or helping deal with the impact for seniors on fixed incomes and others who may find the scale up in costs to be really hard. But those things will come. So I want to thank staff for really taking those challenges seriously and working hard to try to get the best deal that we can for our community, and not just kind of go along to get along with whatever the regulators and the consultants and everybody else out there thinks might be good, but make sure it's the right thing for our community and that we do the best that we can. So I concur very much in the recommendations that have come forward to this body from the task force, and wanted to let all of the council know how hard our staff is working for us, as well as the work that our task force is doing.
Thank you, Councilmember Pete.
Yeah, I was very pleased with the committee, although it's not a topic that everybody wants to get together and talk about. I think that we had a great cross section of residents, business owners, and industry specific experts representing. Overall, there was some good discussion. There was some passionate discussion as well at times, and I think that being that I'm a business owner and I live and I'm on the sewer, I'm one of the 5,500. Although I used to be on septic and I would have stayed. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a it's an interesting city that we live in, where you could have a neighbor who's on septic and neighbors on sewer, and you're half a mile from downtown Atascadero, and it's definitely a spaghetti town in terms of the roads. And it's at first it was stressful, and at the same time, being the new one on the council and hearing that we hadn't had an increase in 20 years, and it's frustrating that it's being dumped on one generation of possibly even new homeowners here in the millennial generation or Gen Z. That's all of a sudden now their 6% mortgage is now going to be increased by graduating sewer increases year over year. They can thank their predecessors in Atascadero for not stepping up and raising the rates like they should have. I also want to agree with Councilman Funk, and the absurdity of the salt limits. We're not going to go into too many details. I think that I really appreciate her work with Laird's office and just everything else that she's been spearheading on this project and this committee. And thank the city staff for it. I am encouraged by the committee, not because we came out of there saving $100 million, but the fact that we had laundromat, we had heavy users, we had developers, construction, people that are really going to be impacted by this increase have their voice heard. And I think that with the recommendations that City Manager Lewis recited tonight, that we echoed and directed staff to put down on the record, I'm encouraged by a handful of them. There's a few that I would love to see tweaked, but that's not the time and place for it. But I do want to echo that a lot of this with the general plan update, coming down the pike for the last few years, a lot of the magnitude of this problem, as far as I'm aware or concerned, was not out in the open. It wasn't as big of an issue. At least it wasn't it wasn't known to a business owner or resident in Atascadero, so I could see how residents would, be shocked that this is happening right at the end of a general plan update, because it is quite shocking. But if you're developing in the future in Atascadero, it'd be my opinion and my if I have anything to do with it, make sure that they're paying their fair share for the new sewer plant. And I'm encouraged by the Ash partnership, and hopefully we can find out some more partners around here that want to play ball. But that being said, I think I'm through, and thank you all for participating and staff for preparing.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
I don't have any comments other than thank you guys for all your hard work, and hopefully we can get this done in a good manner. Right.
Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you. Again, thank you, staff, for speaking with me. Obviously, everybody knows that that number is going to give anyone heartburn, and that you understand that our focus is on making sure that we're conducting and engaging in contracts for people to understand that we have a limited budget. We want to make sure that we're being good stewards of our community and their ability to be able to sustain deferred expenditures on this project. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think it's critically important, and, it is in here, but it's critically important that we push back on the Regional Water Quality Out of Control Board for, the imposition of unreasonable requirements that, on the one hand, require us to treat water to a standard that's higher than what the water company can pump out of the ground and serve to us, and also to require treatment of certain types of things to different levels from different communities along the same river. That's just absurd to me, that it's something might be good enough in one community, but it's not good enough in another community. And when they say that, I don't understand how anybody could logically arrive at that's a reasonable thing for them to do. But that's something we need to push back on as well, that if a certain standard is good enough for any community along the river, it should be good enough for Atascadero and not just require us to spend millions of dollars more, for reasons I'll never understand. So I'm glad that, we're going to push back on those kinds of things. And so with that, though, also thank you to the group in particular. Thank you to staff, but then that's your job. But thank you for the volunteers from the community to step up, participate in this, give us great community feedback because of the different roles you hold. Okay, does staff need anything else from us in terms of feedback? Okay, so you're good to go forward. Okay, thank you. And thank you again to the group for participating. We are ready to move on to item H2, which related to this is a wastewater treatment plant in design engineering contract award. So we will, I believe, going to turn that over to Mr. Hayes again. Is that correct?
All right. Well, you get more time with me this evening. So,
Does anybody need to take a break here, council?
yeah. I need some water. I'll be honest.
Well, because my back is hurting. I could use standing
I'm
up.
sorry.
Let's take
I
a
didn't need a break. I just been a water.
let's take a 9-minute break. Be back in your seats at 7:55. Okay, folks, we are returning to begin our discussion of item H2. And I believe that again, that is Mr. Hayes. Correct? Are you the presenter?
I am.
Okay, please proceed. Mr. Peak.
All right. All right, there we go. Oh, wait a second. All right, so following hot on the heels of that last presentation, as we discussed a little bit, our next phase is the design engineering, moving into design engineering on the wastewater treatment plant. This is the same slide shown before. We are in that 2025 secondary, so this would be secondary selection and preliminary design. And also part of the scope of work, although not to be authorized tonight, would be detailed design as well by the same consultant. This I only put up here. This is a detailed project timeline, and I only put this up here to show the work. That in the gray on the left is work that's already been done leading up to this, and the work on the right is stuff we have coming up. And just the kind of the complexity of the project, what all the different elements that come into this. The part that's kind of that brownish orange up above is the design engineering component, and we're at that design engineering selection stage. So we're on track and on schedule. This was put together a while ago. But there's a lot of different components that are going to go into this design. One of the questions is, why now? This is obviously a big. You've got the staff report in front of you. It's a big contract for design engineer. Why is now the right time? Do we need to do it now? Do we need to move it forward? That schedule kind of showed you this is the time that we've scheduled out to be moving into design engineering. And it's been moving toward this stage since 2020. We've had multiple reports. We've actually got Mr. Wade, Dylan Wade with WSC has been our program manager. That's been our almost augmentation of staff here as we go through the process, getting us to this point. The WSC team has put together just a ton of reports, studies, and background documentation that went into our RFP for design engineering. So that's the work that's been going on over the last 4 or 5 years, leading up to this point to where we could sort of hand off to the design engineer everything, all the background information, so they could make really informed decisions going forward with staff. Obviously, we're all in this together. The remaining, so another element we need to go through is we've really kind of reached a point now where we have come up with the answers we can come up with. The remaining unknowns, a lot of the big things, Mr. Lewis mentioned it earlier, we've kind of got this big picture cost estimate right now that says, we've got 25, 30% on either side it could go because we don't even have a process selected yet. The remaining unknowns really require a more detailed evaluation of alternatives and solutions. The way, and I'll get into it a little bit, how staff is recommending and how the proposal was put together by the consultant at the request of the RFP to phase out the different elements of work. But the first phase provides a lot of clarity on treatment process and anticipated costs. So that'd be the first thing they would go into. And then we've talked about it a little bit already tonight in the last presentation, but waiting any longer on the design engineer leads to increased design and construction costs where, I think we've mentioned it before, but right now construction costs have been pretty consistently going up 8 to 10% a year. So, 130 million becomes, 10% more than 130 million next year. I won't scare everyone with more numbers. And then also we have a timeline that we're on now as a result of the new general permit. We have some time to come into compliance with that, but it's not unlimited time. And so the longer we wait before we get into design engineering and subsequently construction on a new plant, we put ourselves more at risk for regulatory enforcement and also significant limitations on growth. So it was wise to separate that scope in, I'm sorry, I'm going a different direction. The other question that might be why now or why did we do it this way? The question could be raised, could you split this thing out into different scopes? But it is getting a single consultant on board to really run the design engineering effort is much more efficient. It keeps the project on schedule. Trying to keep a bunch of different consultants apprised of the work and handing it off from one to the next would be very difficult. So keeping it with one consultant is advisable. As I mentioned, we looked at, what are the logical phases for this? We talked a lot about it with Dylan and his team at WSC. What are the logical phases for splitting out a big design project like this, especially with where we're at right now and needing to go in there and pick a process? So when I say, sorry, I should probably go back on that. When I say process selection, that is, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with the treatment plant? There's lots of different ways to treat wastewater. Same process selection is which one are we going to land on? There's like membrane bioreactors, oxidation dishes, they all have their pros and cons. That will be the first phase with the design engineer, is going through all of those pros and cons of each of those and seeing what works for the city of Atascadero, what's most cost effective, both immediately and with life cycle costs over time. Mr. DeBar mentioned it earlier, but some of these come with heavy electrical costs. Some are less electrical costs, but they take longer, they're bigger. We're effectively trading, without getting too much into it, we're trading biology for electricity in a mechanical process. So selecting the right mechanical process that's cost effective, O&M friendly, robust, and then adaptable. That's something we heard a lot at the through the task force, and we've heard a lot. You never know exactly where the city is going to go into the future. So having a design engineer that can design a project that is adaptable for the future is key. Phase two, so what phase one will get us to is selecting a process with all the different inputs and get us a pretty dialed in preliminary cost estimate. We'll know a little bit better where we're going to move forward, what our costs are moving forward. And we anticipate, if council decides to move forward tonight with award of that contract, finishing up that first phase in late spring of 2026. We then move into a preliminary design, which really develops that process selection, the preliminary design, and puts together a preliminary design report, and it develops a really detailed probable construction cost. So at that point, by fall, basically this time next year, we'd really know what we were doing, have a preliminary design, and then a pretty dialed in cost for that to inform rate studies going forward. And then following after that, detailed design, and that's the meat really of the contract in terms of the cost. It's about 60-70% of the cost, and that's developing all of the design plans, specs and specifications that go into actually building the plant, putting it out for bid. And then there's also a bid phase and engineering services during construction phase, which is phase 4. So that is how it's split up. The consultant put that in their proposal, split up that way. A little bit about, I haven't even mentioned, goodness gracious, Black & Veatch is the consultant that staff selected. This is our process for going through that. Summer 2025, WSC, Dylan, his team put together with staff. We went through a process to come up with that request for proposals that included all of the background information that had been put together over the last 4 or 5 years. Went out to those consultants. WSC also reached out to a number of consultants that are really experienced in this type of work to kind of try to get interest from consultants. In the end, there were 2. This is a big, these proposals are super costly to put together. So consultants want to know that they have a good chance. We had 2. We issued the RFP in July of this year, and then received proposals in September from Black & Veatch and Carollo. Carollo just had completed the collection system master plan. We've not worked previously with Black & Veatch. They're both large international firms that specialize in water resources. In October, we held interviews. Our project team, or our selection team, held interviews with both project teams, and out of that, which was pretty impressive actually, Black & Veatch was unanimously chosen by the 6 members of that team. We had both staff here, WSC, and actually an outside, another engineer from a local agency, all participate in selecting the consultants. So we felt very strongly that Black & Veatch really was, on a staff level, really was the best selection for this. The primary reasons why Black & Veatch really stood out was they really understood, I think they really understood the constraints the city has right now, largely cost. And they put together, I think, an excellent proposal that came out and said everything's on the table. We understand that the Atascadero is unique, and you have a lot of constraints, especially from the financial side. We're going to look at everything, and we are going to figure out what works for the city of Atascadero. Nothing's off the table right now. We've come up with a solution that's an efficient solution for the city. They have a number of just leading industry experts, so they can pull in a lot of resources, but their team itself that will be working on this project has worked together on multiple other projects, including others in our area recently. And so they are well-versed on our area and really experienced here. They also, Black & Veatch is actually a design build firm. They won't be on this. This is a design bid build, a traditional design bid build. But being a design build firm allows them, they have construction experts in-house. So that is really helpful as you go through the design process. They can vet out ideas with their construction side. And then they partnered with a bunch of actually local consultants here that the city works with otherwise as their sub-consultants. So Ashley & Vance, CA & Associates, and MBS Land Surveys are all local consultants that are sub-consultants to Black & Veatch. So after review of the proposals and those interviews, staff did feel very strongly about Black & Veatch being the most qualified of the two. Am I going to speak on this one, Nick?
So this is a table from the staff report, and thought we'd go over this real quickly with you, just because looks very confusing. So one of the things with this contract is it's the some $9 million, that the award would be. It is broken out into these 4 phases that Ryan mentioned. And it would be structured in such a way that phase 1 would be, approved by the city council to move ahead before the next phase. Staff will come back to city council at the end of these phases and present the findings. And then, if it's a go to the next phase, we'll ask city council, to make that approval. And so we're taking these 4 steps through the process. You can see phase 3 is really a big chunk of that fee, and that's a final design that's putting together not only doing all the plans and specifications, preparing all that. There's something like 300 plus plans that are going to be part of this bid package that they put out. But you can see we added the fiscal years that we're looking at doing this. So right now, in the current adopted budget, there's $6 million for the next 2 fiscal years. And we believe that is enough to get us through phase 1 and 2 and part of phase 3, halfway through phase 3 roughly. And then the next budget cycle, if we continue to go that way, we'll have to, at the bottom there, the future funding needs. This is just for design. Would also need to have some appropriations for that. We also, at the very top, program management, WSC, and some of the administration, we have those costs that are ongoing. That's spread out through construction, so they'll be on board through construction. And I think that's about all I needed, wanted to cover on this. And I can answer any questions you have after this when we're done presenting.
Yeah, final slide is the recommendations. Staff recommends awarding a professional services agreement to Black & Veatch for the entire contract, and then authorizing only phase 1 at this time.
Okay. All right, we'll begin with questions from council. I'll start on my right with Councilmember Newsom.
For me, I was so hung up on H1. I asked all my questions to staff today that helped resolve everything that came in H2. Now, in my defense, I did read both before I asked all those questions, but I really like that we were able to take this as a holistic approach and break it down. So I'm going to hold all my rest for comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Funk?
Yes, you mentioned that that Black and Veatch has been involved with a number of similar projects in the area. Are you able to mention a couple of those? And which Black and Veatch office is going to support us in this project?
So the local one, yeah, so they were involved, actually, they were the primary designer on Paso Robles plant, which is very successful, Morro Bay's plant, which is most recently completed, and then they're doing, they're in the planning process right now on Monterey One Water, which is a large, that is all of Monterey Basin's wastewater treatment. It's all consolidated. It's a regional regional solution. So they're working, Nick's showing me right now, 16 million gallon per day treatment plant. So those are kind of the local ones around here. I believe they've worked on a few others as well, but I don't have them in front of me right now. I'm sorry, what was the second part of that?
And which office of Black and Veatch?
So their primary office that is going to be worked out of is Walnut Creek, but their team, I mean, everything in the post-COVID era, everything is much more integrated online. So they actually have team members from multiple offices working on this as part of their group, core group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Peak, no questions? Okay, I have a question. You know, I think the obvious thing that members of the public might ask is, okay, we're awarding the full agreement tonight, and they understand that we're only authorizing the singular phase. Question is, you know, with the kind of unknowns we spoke of in terms of, I mean, I think we can assume that Ash will participate, but in terms of a potential pushback on the SALT standards, et cetera, how, in terms of embarking on phase one, how will they know, you know, what to design to or what to recommend, considering we have kind of unanswered questions on some of those things? We don't know the results of our infiltration study, et cetera, et cetera. How will they, you know, be able to proceed on this with those kind of unanswered questions?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is why we held off on design this long, to be able to get some of the answers to that question. I'll answer the easy one first. With regard to I&I, we actually think the infiltration, that'll actually dovetail pretty nicely. The sizing of the system comes along a little bit later, and that really influences more the sizing than the process selection, which is the first phase. Regarding the salts, we're getting, I don't know how to answer that one very well. There are some unknowns, but there's more clarity on that than we've had in the past. So, you know, part of what Black and Veatch is going to go through is look at a real detailed risk analysis. So if we went one direction, what are the risks associated with that if salts were to come along later? And that's something the city staff and then council is going to have to balance, is what kind of risks are we going to take on that? I'm feeling more confident than I have yet on this, that we will have some pretty good clarity on salts going forward in conjunction with this design.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Let's open it up to the public, see if any member of the public would like to comment on this item.
Hi, David Athy. I'm representing Carol and Fred Athy at 7255 Portola Road. I just want to say thanks to the public works staff. You have a phenomenal public works staff here. You're very lucky in the city. I've read the staff report, and you know, I think it really makes sense. Using Black and Veatch, the Paso Robles plant, like they mentioned, does work very well. You know, it's really been Paso Robles got their money worth for what they spent up there, and it was expensive. You know, I just want to make sure and really encourage council to right size this plant. This is a huge capital investment for the city of Atascadero, and making sure that you know, you look at your planning documents like the local area management plan for septic systems that calls out areas to be, you know, for future sewage areas. That may help with your finance situation. getting money and connection fees and paying for this plant. So people in the future will buy that, they'll buy a piece of that plant, the capacity that you're building, that you're going to be building as part of this project. Other things maybe to consider, power is expensive. Power is really expensive. So maybe, you're talking about working with the state hospital. They have a large area that used to be a dairy right behind the state hospital. Flat, could have a lot of acreage of solar panels or something like that. Just an idea. You don't have to do that. And I don't want to, get into the weeds on it. I'd love to, but from our standpoint, as landowners here in the city, we agree with staff's recommendation and hope council moves forward with this tonight and gets going on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council for a motion and any discussion.
I think we have no choice but to move forward. Unless somebody wants to have discussion on the motion, I would move that we award the professional services agreement to Black & Veatch as recommended by staff and authorize Black & Veatch to proceed with phase 1 work.
A second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Funk and a second by Councilmember Peak. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Bourbeau.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will proceed now to council announcements and committee reports. We'll start on my left with Councilmember Peak.
Looking forward to our city schools committee meeting coming up here in a week or so. My wife and I had a good time. We purchased tickets, went to the Printery Gala and got to see the inside of that building, and I'd never been inside. It was pretty neat. Participate in the silent auction, and we have yet to find out if we won anything, but I think my wife's chances are pretty good for one of those items. So it was good time supporting the Printery that evening, and it was a nice warm evening. Recommend anybody who hasn't been inside the Printery to figure out a tour and go check it out.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
Thank you. APCD met this morning. I think the biggest thing we discussed there was the appointment of some hearing board members whose positions have expired. I think the two people whose times are expired are basically being reappointed. So that was fairly simple. Nothing much of note afterwards. And I think next week is the third Thursday of the month. So CAPSLO will be meeting next Thursday. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Funk.
Okay. Yes. Along with Councilmember Peak, I was so pleased to be at the Printery event and was delighted that we're able to have an event inside the Printery building. One of the rooms, the main room we were in, has been fully retrofitted now for earthquake safety. And there's more of that to do in the rest of the building and opportunities to take a bunch of sand out of there that's sitting in the swimming pool. But this will be plenty of opportunities for people to help out in moving that forward as a multi-generational, multidisciplinary facility that includes both performing arts and opportunities for lots of other engagement in terms of the plan that they've offered for the community. Very exciting to see that moving forward. A couple of other things. Let's see. I attended along with the mayor, the IWMA, the Integrated Waste Management Agency's Solid Waste Summit last week, and got to hear about and share in development of ideas for differing ways that we can make it easier for folks to dispose of their batteries and deal with other challenges that hit the waste community, and how we can reduce the amount of waste that's coming into the system so that there's less problems on the back end and pollution. I will be on Friday. I'll be attending the REACH REACH Regional Roundtable in Santa Maria Maria representing the city in those conversations. And next week I'll have the Homeless Services Oversight Council for its bi-monthly meeting. Design review hasn't met in a while. We managed to engineer and simplify the processes enough that DRC rarely has to meet, which reflects work by the staff and council that way. And then I also want to report, consistent with what we've just been discussing, that Senator Laird's regional director, Kara Woodruff, and I met by Zoom recently with a number of folks from the Water Quality Board. And it was an opportunity for me to hear them brief her so that she can brief the senator on our situation. He's very familiar with that, and I have talked with him personally as well. He has a number of other cities in his district that are facing real challenges in meeting some of the new requirements and are gulping at the kind of numbers that we're looking at tonight. So when it comes to the issues of when and how we can push back, as well as where we might seek ways to fund things, they're really in the boat with us rowing. And if we do have a window of opportunity here where our state senator is a former state cabinet member, the Secretary of Natural Resources for the state. So that's really valuable to have that level of understanding on our team, collectively as we work on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you. RTA met on Wednesday, the 5th. Short meeting, but we did go over contact list fare system is set to launch in February of 2026. So they're looking forward to that. I too attended the Atascadero Printery Gala. I took a date. She was 7. The most exciting highlight out of the gala was a typewriter. So I think we are bringing typing back into our schools. She went home and wrote a letter while she was there, went home, explained that she typed for 45 minutes and it was the highlight of her whole year. So it'll be nice to see the printery bring back some of that technology. We can try to explain it, but until you physically try it yourself, you don't really understand what you're missing out on. So that was good.
Okay, thank you. I attended the Integrated Waste Management Authority meeting today, but I would say nothing of note to report to council. And this Friday is the mayor's monthly mayor's meeting. This time will be in Grover Beach, where we will hear from State Senator Monique Limon, who I believe is the incoming majority leader. Also, I also went to the Printery Gala, and it's just nice, as Councilmember Funk said, to have an event indoors there, or Councilmember Peak said. And I believe that it's actually tomorrow is when the sand is scheduled to come out of the indoor pool. I'm hoping the rain doesn't kind of mess up that schedule, but it'll be interesting. And I suggested they have a kind of a raffle for guessing what, if anything, is in the pool when they dig the sand out. So, yeah, hopefully no bodies. So, anyway, that's it for committee reports. Does any member have any individual determination or actions? Okay. I actually was going to bring something up. I'm sure you all noted that recently our police department was able to make some arrests that originally stemmed from an incident that was caught on camera. And the cameras were, of course, a major aid in identifying, allowing them to respond quickly to a problem situation, which led to further investigation and arrests. And I'm just struck in seeing some things involving other communities that, I'd really like to see us have more cameras, but I'm hoping maybe that the city manager could maybe just address that at his next city manager updates, perhaps, or perhaps in another forum, address where we're at and what more we might be able to do, because these things and these various technological things like license plate readers and cameras are very much force multipliers that make police in particular's job easier and saves them time. And you have enough of that stuff, it's almost like having another officer on the street. So I'd look not for a formal report or anything, but some commentary on that in the future. So, all right, with that, we will call it a meeting. Thank you, everybody.